Old alien woman exiled for late pregnancy, alone on a space station, until a human offers her. The orbital station spun silently in the cold void, its metal bones groaning with age. For most, it was a forgotten relic, too far from trade routes, too empty of value. But for Zayara, it was a prison. She was 72 cycles old, considered ancient among her people. Her scales, once a radiant green gold, had dulled to a weary bronze. Her horns were chipped from battles fought long ago, back when she was a respected warrior. But none of that mattered now. What condemned her was not her past, it was her present. Zayara was pregnant. Among her species, childbirth beyond the age of 40 cycles was unthinkable, dangerous, taboo. A shame to the clans who prized vitality and youth. The council had exiled her, branding her reckless, unnatural. They gave her one ship, one station, and silence. Her only companions were the echoes of the station's life support systems and the slow, steady heartbeat she felt within her body. Each day, she drifted between exhaustion and longing. She pressed her clawed hands against her belly, whispering lullabies from her childhood. Her child deserved more than isolation, more than her fading strength. But she had no choice. At least, she thought she had none. On the 42nd day of exile, the scanners blared. A vessel approached, small, human-made, barely functional. She should have ignored it. Visitors were forbidden. But when the docking clamps engaged, her hands trembled. The hatch hissed open, and out stepped a human. He was young by her reckoning, perhaps 30 of his years. His hair was dark, messy from hours in a cockpit, his eyes a startling blue. His suit bore the insignia of no empire, only the patched marks of repairs done by hand. "Hello," his voice carried awkwardly through the thin air. "I'm not intruding, am I?" Zayara stiffened, her massive frame looming in the docking bay. "You are intruding, human. This station is not meant for visitors." He studied her, but instead of fear, she saw gentleness. "I was drifting. My ship's drive is failing. Your beacon was the only signal I caught. I hoped maybe you had fuel to spare. Or just company." Her tail lashed. "Company? You don't even know who I am." He smiled faintly. "Doesn't matter. You're someone." For the first time in moons, Zayara's chest tightened with something other than grief. The human's name was Elias. He was a traitor, though poorly suited for it. His stories were full of botched deals and half-empty holds. Yet as he repaired his ship with her tools, he lingered, bringing her food packets, asking questions about the station, her species, her exile. At first, she gave curt answers. What use did he have for an old woman's shame? But Elias did not mock. He listened. When he learned of her pregnancy, he simply nodded. "Then you're stronger than anyone I've ever met. To carry life when the world has turned its back on you. That's incredible." Zayara turned away, scales prickling with heat. "You call it strength. My people call it disgrace." "Then maybe your people don't deserve you." Days became weeks. Elias cooked meals with her rations, mixing spices she hadn't tasted in decades. He coaxed her to walk the long corridors, to stretch her weary body. He even repaired the cracked viewport so she could watch the stars again, without fear of depressurization. The baby grew restless inside her. She often woke from cramps, panting, sweat dampening her scales. Elias never asked permission. He simply arrived with water, blankets, steady hands. "You shouldn't be here," she muttered one night, when the pain left her doubled over in the medical bay. "Maybe not," he admitted, "but you shouldn't be alone either." The birth came sooner than expected. Zayara had given birth once before, half a century ago, when her body was young and strong. This time was a storm. Hours of agony. Blood that wouldn't stop. The station's machines faltered, failing to calibrate her species' needs. It was Elias who held her hand, Elias who shouted instructions into the failing medicomputer, Elias who refused to leave her side. And when the child's cry finally pierced the silence, thin, raspy, but alive, Elias was the one who lifted the newborn and placed it gently into her arms. A daughter. Small, fragile, her scales shimmering faintly with the promise of gold. Zayara wept. She had not allowed herself tears in decades, but they came freely now. Elias brushed sweat from her brow. She's beautiful. She is a curse, Zayara whispered, though her arms clutched the child tighter. My people will never accept her. They will hunt her. Then let me help, Elias said softly. I can stay, or take you somewhere safe. You don't have to face this alone. They named the child Saris. Elias grew into her world as naturally as if he'd always belonged. He repaired the nursery module, painted stars on the walls, told Saris stories of Earth, of oceans and forests, of children running free beneath skies unbounded. Zayara watched them together, torn between gratitude and fear. A human had no stake in her shame, no obligation to her child. Yet Elias stayed. Each day he reminded her, exile did not mean unworthy. Age did not mean useless. And when she woke one night to find Saris cradled against Elias's chest, both asleep in the chair beside her bed, she realized something deeper had taken root. Companionship. No, more than that. Love. But peace was fragile. The Council's patrol ship arrived without warning, weapons armed. They had tracked her beacon, determined to finish what Exile had begun. Zayara stood in the docking bay, her daughter swaddled close, Elias at her side. Zayara of Clan Triveth, the commander's voice thundered through the comms. You were cast out for defying sacred law. The child you bear is an abomination. Hand it over, and perhaps your death will be swift. Her knees trembled. She was old, weak, alone, except for the human who refused to step aside. Elias's voice cut through her fear. If you want them, you'll have to kill me first. The commander laughed. A human? You think your fragile body will stop us? Elias raised the blaster he had rebuilt from scrap. His eyes never wavered. Try me. Zayara's heart surged. For decades, she had carried her shame alone. But now she was not alone. She spread her wings, rusted though they were, and her voice rang through the bay. Hear me, council dogs. You call my child a curse. I call her a miracle, and I will not let you take her. The standoff burned like fire through her veins. She had nothing left to lose, except everything. The council ship hesitated, wary of open conflict with a human witness. At last, with snarls and curses, they disengaged, vanishing back into the stars. For now, they were safe. Later, as the silence settled again, Elias touched her shoulder. You were magnificent. Zayara shook her head. I was terrified. Strength isn't the absence of fear, he said gently. It's doing what you must, even when you're afraid. She looked at him, at Sarah sleeping between them, and for the first time since Exile began, she felt something that had nearly died within her. Hope. The station was no longer a prison. It was a home. A fragile one, yes, and hunted, but a home built of 3 hearts beating together. Zayara had been cast out as old, as ruined, as unworthy. But in Elias's presence, and in Saris's tiny cries, she discovered a truth stronger than shame.